Let's draw a little tiny house and put a door in it and a window in it, just so we have things to deal with that are sort of at a known scale. I'm just going to do a little, like 10 by 20 foot house or something or other. And put a door in it. And put a window in it. Some geometry so we can keep track of this, of the scale of things as we start putting things on title blocks and like that. If we want to label this room, just put the word, bedroom in there or something or other. You can either go to annotate text, or if you have it up here at the top, you can do it, but just annotate text. And Revit ships this template ships with two versions that will plot a 1/4 inch high or plot 3/32 of an inch high, which is basically a 1/10 of an inch. And typically we use these for title-y sort of things, and these just for the regular notes. And that's a pretty standard size throughout the English-speaking world for that size. But for this, which is a little larger, we use the Arial, and we can either click and it just starts typing, or we can click and drag a rectangle for it. And I'm just going to say bedroom. And then click out here when I'm done. And let me get, and the reason that's so big, well, let's do a couple things. And then I select it, and I can drag its containing box to be where I want, and move the box to be where I want. And the reason that this is so apparently big is that this isn't that big a room, and our drawing here is at 1/8 of an inch scale. This particular view is at 1/8 of an inch scale. And all text and dimensions are sized by Revit depending on the scale of the drawing. So let me show you how this works with two views at different scales with the same size text. This view, level 1, rename 1/8 inch. 1/8 inch. Okay, that's just what we started with. We'll take this this view and duplicate it, and we'll rename it 1/4 inch. And we're just going to do the duplicate, neither of those two for now, just this one right now. And this will copy all the 3-dimensional information, not the text and dimensions, just all the.
Okay. And then I just rename these.
And rename this one. Rename the copy, and then that view, we will change its scale to 1/4 inch equals a foot. And then in this one, we're also going to put the word bedroom. Well, let's put a different word just so we can tell the difference. Let's go to text and just say kitchen. And when you're done, if you hit enter, it gives a new line. So you just click outside, and it does that. So these two pieces of text are both this 1/4 inch Arial, meaning when it plots, it's going to be a 1/4 inch high. And to see how that works, we'll go down to, we're going to put these on a title block, and we'll be getting to title blocks later in the day if we have time. We go down to sheets. These are our plotted sheets. Right click, new sheet, and we'll just pick this big one, this big title block that just came with the program. And something we'll be doing later if we get down to it is, this is like 30 by 42, which we can't even print on our plotter. So we're going to make this down to 24 by 36. But right now, I just want to drag these two views, the original 1/8 inch view, and we can select it. And I guess we'll make its crop region visible, so we can then sort of control it a little better, place it a little more accurately on our sheet. So that's the 1/8 inch one. If you move the view, the title goes with it. If you select the view, the title goes with it. If you select just the title, it can move by itself. We'll address that at some point. And then when we drag the 1/4 inch copy, let's stick it out here maybe. And again, with that, I need to decide, okay, I want to crop the view and I want to make the crop region visible. Double click there, bring it in, bring it in, bring it in, bring it in, click outside, and then move that over here. Looking at mine here, you can see that the plans are different scales, but the text is at the same height in both views. And if I just do up here, I'm just going to draw a little line just out here on the title block, or even out here, that's 1/4 inch long. Go. We can see that in both views, in terms of how this sheet is going to plot, this is a 24, this will end up being a 24 by 36 inch sheet when we're done with it. And when we're plotting those, the plotted height of these pieces of text is the same as a 1/4 inch line drawn right on the title block. So that's really the major difference between this and AutoCAD. Some of the AutoCAD fonts scale up and down with the geometry that they accompany. And it's the same thing with dimensions. If we say we would like to have dimension text be 3/32 of an inch high, that'll be 3/32 of an inch high when plotted, regardless of the scale of the view. Let's just quickly do one of those just to prove it. Let's do an aligned dimension, and the dimensions default to this smaller style already. So if I dimension from, I'm going to hit, let's say tab to hit the wall there, hit that like that, and then go over to my 1/4 inch plan and do the same thing. DI for dimension, tab to select that, tab, there that is. And if we go back to the unnamed view, to the sheet, we can see that those two pieces of text, those two dimensions are the same. How close can I get these? So the point of this is, a lot of times we're replacing drawings, through a set or on a sheet. We're doing drawings that we want to be consistent. Here, Revit just does that entirely for you. And it's worth noting that these are two different dimensions, just the way that these are two different pieces of text. Let me just dimension from the door here. And you notice that this 1 foot 4 inch dimension does not show up here, and the 3 foot dimension does not show up here. And that's not because they're at different scales. It's because dimensions and text, which collectively are thought of as annotative elements, are the 2D elements that are unique to the view that they were created in. And the only slight exception to that would be if I had taken this view and did a duplicate view with detailing, then I would get 1/8 inch copy, let's say with detailing. I'll just call it copy 1. I drag that one into here. Oh, it was this one over here, sorry. It copies the detailing, but it gives it its own, it copies the view and it copies the detailing, so that this 1'4" is different from this 1'4". And if I erase that one, this one stays. So I can have any stuff here. If I need to move this word to get out of the way of some furniture that I'm turning on that plan, I can do that. The view is a duplicate, and all the annotative objects in that are copies as well. And you can do whatever you want to them in the copy without affecting the original, or in the original without affecting the copied. I guess where I'm getting with this, it's always good to know where we're headed, is it's hugely useful to have decided on the scale that a view is going to be presented at before you start putting a lot of text and notes on things, because they're going to change in their relative size. Well, especially if you start with if I start doing this room at one scale and then do a duplicate with detailing and change it to another scale, especially a smaller one, the words are going to get proportionally much larger, and it's going to be tough. You'll have notes that start to overlap the room name, just because they get relatively larger, and there's just not as much room to put them. So I guess that's a way of saying, understand the scale of the view, how you want to present it, before you start doing any huge amount of annotation, because if you change it, they're going to get relatively larger or smaller, and their positions might change, and then you have to go back and rearrange them all again. So thinking ahead, I guess, we do to some extent have to do that, not as we start creating the model, but as we start annotating the model for presentation. We just need to know how we're going to present it, and almost the first thing you decide is what scale it's going to be. Okay, a couple of things about text. That text tool, annotate text, has some options. I've been using just the regular text tool. We can also do text with a leader. So let me see. I want to use this leader, and I want to use the smaller font for this. And I might want to say, there's my arrow, and new window, and click outside. I'll turn this off. Once you've placed a piece of text, as with anything in Revit, you can modify almost everything about it. You can just drag it and move it if you want.
So how do you decide the size of the text? Because when you wrote something inside the layout, it's a bigger size, and this one is a smaller size.
Oh, annotate text, and when you place anything in Revit, if it's a chair, you come here and pick the size of the chair you want. If it's a text, you pick the size of the text you want. So I clicked on my text tool, and this is sort of sluggish here, but then I picked the 3/32 inch text. So that's the one that shows up here in blue is now the one that we're currently using and will use until we change it back. With one of these leaders, so this is an angled, this is a straight segment, 2 segments, or an arc segment. I'll do this one. And we can just click, and so it's a 3-point thing, and then we start typing, window, and then click outside. So let's look at the things that we can do to this one object. When we select it and we get the properties of this instance of piece of text, we could change it to an arc leader, which is just sort of a variation of that one, I guess. That's the only one I would change there. To move the whole thing, we can just grab it by one of its edges and move the whole the arrow and the piece of text. If you want to leave the arrow pointing where it is, but the text needs to be in a different place, then we can grab the little move icon and move it, but the arrow stays where it is. We can rotate that if you want. If it's too wide, we can drag that until it word wraps. I'm going to make another window here. If we want this, we could, so I'm going to control drag to copy and move that over like that. I could have that new window twice, or I'm going to get rid of this. Or we can add a leader to this one. So that's add a leader to that side. This is add a leader to this side. And then we can position where that goes. Now it's a little funny having this leader come off. There's a lot of options here, and I'm not going to go over them all. But when we pick this, we can choose where we want the arrows to come off. And right now we can see that the left-hand arrow is coming off at the top left. This one's coming off at the bottom. So let's just do them both from the top. And then if we want to get the angles the same, we can, mess like that. We can change the appearance of this whole thing. I don't like these arrows, for instance, right here. And let's say I have a couple of different, I want my new arrows to be different everywhere. So just as when you place a given chair, it's of a type, and if the type changes, all the instances of that change. So it is with type, with text. If you select it and go to edit type, this 330 seconds Arial type, then we have a bunch of text attributes to it. One is what color is it? We have a line weight that we'll deal with eventually, but those go from like 1 to 15 or something, the way Revit works. We can choose whether the background is opaque or not, or whether we can see through it. And usually it is opaque, so that if there's a brick pattern or something underneath it, there'll be like a white rectangle so we can clearly read the text. This is like how far the border is from the text, not that important. But let's just change the arrowhead. Right now we have this open engineer looking arrowhead. I like to use this one, which is a solid black arrowhead. Apply. Okay. Which I just think looks classier, what can I say? Edit, sorry.
Bill,
Pick it, yeah.
so how you have an option of, in AutoCAD, you have an option of, you have a layer for all the text. And if you want to change all the text at the same time, you change the properties of the layer.
Yes,
Do
for
you have
instance.
an option like that?
Yeah, well, we haven't got there yet. Let's say we want the kitchen, let's say we want the kitchen type, which is the 1/4 inch, to be this Arial, but we would like our notes to look like they're handwritten, just for instance. So this type, go to edit type, and here's the font. And you can just choose whichever font you want. I think there's one called like City Blueprint or something. City Blueprint. Apply. Okay. So since these two are the same type, they will all change to that font. Is that what you're looking for?
Yes.
Okay.
So
So
all the fonts in the layout will change like that.
all of the fonts that use this type called Arial, Arial 330 second. And really, at this point, we might like to, well, and at this point, it should no longer be called the 330 second Arial, because Arial is a font. I really should have, let me do this, Control Z. I really should have picked this, gone to edit type, duplicate. We use edit type duplicate over and over and over and over again with Revit. It's how you set up new styles for type, new style for a chair, new look for a flooring, and we'll call this 330 second architect. architect. And there might be a couple of different architect fonts we want to try out, but they're all going to have that look. And then this style called architect, we will change to that city blueprint. City blueprint. Then there's country blueprint, which is a little bit different. We'll try that. Apply. Okay. Okay, that's a little, the D is a little nicer on that one. I'll leave that. So at this point, this is still the original Arial type. This is the architect type. And I can copy that over here. And then I still have this one available to me, but if I want this one to, that's the Arial type, I can select it and then choose to make it the architect one, and it changes to the architect one. And if we make a change to the architect type, both of these will change. If I want it, if that looks like a little thin to me, I want it bold, let's say. Edit type. Let's say bold. Apply. Okay. And then it's a bolder font. However that happens. So you have the opportunity here to make global changes very easily by changing a type. You know, pretty much everything in Revit, whether it's a title block or a font or as I said, a chair or a kitchen cabinet, will have a type, and the kinds of things you affect are specific to that type. For instance, we're not going to have a bold kitchen cabinet, but in kitchen cabinets we would have dimensions here instead of text attributes. And these are pretty much exactly what AutoCAD has: width factors, underline, tab, how big those are, what kind of arrow, like that. So once we have this piece of text, let's say there's only one window down here, we can get rid of a leader, and then if the leader's in the wrong place, we can just move it to the right place. If you wanted that to come off the bottom, it will now come off the bottom. If you want to move it around there, it'll come off of there. So it's very flexible as far as how all that works. To modify the text itself, we double click on it, and now we're in it. Just like a little tiny word processor, new casement window. After double clicking to edit text, we can do a couple of things. When you double click in there, we get some little mini word processing options, which I don't want to go into too much, but we could say within here we can highlight it and underline it. We can highlight it and select it and bold it, and italicize it. So what we can't change within that, we can't change the font and we can't change the height. Those are set in the type, but sort of the individual letter sort of things like a superscript or a subscript, or change it all to uppercase. We can also do bulleting and numbered lists inside there, as well as indents and outdents, or whatever they would. I guess that just decreases any indents you might have done. So just a minimal amount of formatting, but we don't change the height and we don't change the fundamental font of each piece of text. Generally, we're not really doing graphic design here. We're trying to present information as succinctly and as really in as uniform a way as possible, so that does it really, as soon as you underline something or bold it, people start thinking, oh, that must be really more important than something that doesn't have those. Because in construction documents, every word is important. The word new and window are certainly sufficient to anybody reading these plans to know what's going on there. If I want to have this, be a list 1 demo 2 walls 3 4, something like that. and I want a bigger piece of text up top that says construction sequence. To do that, I would create a new separate piece of text. If I want that to be a bigger font, I will have to take this and go to Edit Type and duplicate it. And see, that's 3. So a little bit bigger would be 1/8 of an inch. 1/8 inch Arial, which I would make and change it here. Okay. So, when you have, and I find this, I would really like it to have, I would like to have these to be able, I would like for these to be able to be part of the same piece of text so they'd move around together. But I think Revit realized, as soon as we start adding the options for different heights within a single piece of text and that kind of stuff, the whole idea of this as a working document sort of dissolves. So you would have to do something like this, with a separate piece of text, to which you can make it bold or something or other. And frankly, I don't do that. I would just take this and I might just bold and underline it, and maybe skip a space and just let that be how I handle that sort of thing. Again, working documents, what we're trying to do is put together working documents, not graphic design magazine layouts. So just bear that in mind. That sort of informs the whole deal here. If we would like to create a style, let's say I would like to have an arrow and then like a number with a box around it. That becomes like one of my keynotes. So if that's keynote number 1, there'll be a list over here that says keynote number 1 means remove paint from this wall or something or other. So let's just create another piece of text. Annotate text. I'll use just this. And I'm just using my plain regular old Arial 1. And it picks up the new arrow type. Let's just say this is note number 4. Well, I would like that to have a box around it, sort of the way it appears right here. And we can create a text style called box note, which will put a box around that without us having to draw it. So pick that, edit type, duplicate. Edit type, duplicate just happens over and over again. Let's call it Arial boxed. 3/30 seconds Arial boxed. And show border. And that's the border. So there it is. That's what we have. And we can copy this down here. And put number 6. And then somewhere over here, you'd have a list of what 4 meant and what 6 meant, which is a much faster way to do that than having lots of these all over your drawing that actually spelled out remove paint here, remove paint here, remove paint here. Because by the time, let's say it was these over here, your number 6 could be remove paint. And then you realize you really need to change that to be like remove paint and replaster. You only have to change that one place instead of every place that occurs. So a lot of drawings will have notes like that. They'll have some with circles, which we can't just do directly in the font definition. We can make a family though that has that. Different shapes around them denoting different things. Triangles for a revision number. If a piece of text doesn't have leaders, it will offer you leaders.
Okay.
If it has leaders, it will offer you adding them or getting rid of 1 or 2.
Oh, okay.
So you never have to go back and remake something. You can always tweak it to be what you want, whether you've done it wrong the first time or you just change your mind or copy it from somewhere else. It's very fluid and malleable. Okay, so dimensions. So I'm in the 1/4 inch scale 1 now. Let's look at temporary dimensions. Here's a nice tool. When you select something and you want just that very thing to happen, like down on this wall, we can just type CS for create similar, and Revit grabs it and then it's ready to place it wherever else it might go. And you can see the temporary dimension right now telling me where that is. I think we went over this before, but it's worth reviewing. Is measuring to the center line of the wall and the center line of the door, and that's frankly no help at all. I want to tell Revit, when you're putting up those temporary dimensions to let me locate things initially, I want to be able to see like from a wall, the edge of a wall to the edge of the thing. So that's in Manage. Manage is where we control how, it's like preferences in other programs. Manage additional settings, annotations, temporary dimensions. And this is at the top of page 4 on that class 21. Temporary dimensions measure from the faces of walls, and with doors and windows, it measures to the edges of the opening itself.
Okay, you went manage additional settings, but
manage settings, additional settings, temporary dimensions.
Mine doesn't say temporary dimensions.
It's actually manage settings is here. This is sort of the whole big tab. So you manage additional settings, annotations.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I should have put that in there. Oops, sorry. Annotations, sorry.
Temporary dimensions.
Annotations, temporary dimensions.
And then you say you want it on the faces?
We want it faces and openings.
Okay, got it.
Center lines are, engineers use them. I never use them. Okay, so now when we highlight that, I guess select it, type CS. It's showing me I'm 6 inches off that wall and 1710 off of that wall. So I'll just crank it into 4, which is sort of a standard thing. Click it over. And now so if I know I want to be, some particular distance from that door, like 6 feet, I can do that. So temporary dimensions are useful not only for placing an object, but afterwards for locating it. So when I pick this guy, it will now tell me how far am I from the nearest wall, how far am I from the nearest window opening. So if temporary dimensions, whenever there's a blue dimension, that means it's a temporary dimension and you can use it to manipulate the object that you've selected. So I can just go right here, click on that and say, make that 6 inches. Dimensions, annotate dimensions. You can't just create them in empty space. In AutoCAD, you can. But in Revit, everything, you're always measuring from something to something else. For instance, I'll measure from this wall, from this edge over to this edge of the window. So a point for each end of it, and then another point for the for where you want the line to go.
So I have a question. When I was working on my other layout, when you want to show an opening, like when you're making a wall, but there's no door, but there's an opening. So you start with one dimension, like one is 6 foot, and then there is an opening of like 8 foot, and then it continues to 6 foot. How do you? I was having trouble making a wall with
well, there's two ways to make, at least 2 ways to make an opening. One is if the walls are truly cut, let's say from here to here, and the wall does not continue across, just like this one comes up and goes to the ceiling, this one comes up to go to the ceiling, but there's nothing through there. To do that, we could, let's just try modeling it. This is the split element, which just cuts something. And I'll get rid of that.
Okay.
Get rid of that. So this would be, let's go to the 3D view. Let's crank these all back.
You
Cut.
did with that split element. Where is, can you show me that again? Where is that
Yeah.
thing?
That's select the object
Uh-huh.
that you want to cut, and then right here, there's two of them.
Okay.
I always use this one. This one sort of leaves the two connected. It's you know, it has like a little 1-inch gap, but it's still like, it's weird. You use this guy, it's cleaner.
Okay, so this split the wall completely, but when you
Right,
have an
so-
opening,
Right. So that breaks the wall completely, all the way up to the ceiling,
mhm,
which is really not always what you want. Let me get rid of that guy and go back here. And what we really want there, so it functions like a door, a doorway
Yes.
with no door in it. That's an architecture door. It is like a door, and it's just called door opening, where it's just a hole in the wall. There's no panel there. There's nothing, and we'll just put it in here. And this is more generally the case. And the dotted lines indicate there's something happening above there, which is like this. So, you know, it's a hole like a door, but it doesn't have, you know, an actual panel or.
And can you
molding
show
around.
one more time? Where did you get that from?
Where did that
Go
come
to
from?
the door. Yeah.
That's in,
Door.
I want to do Control Z a couple times. That's in door, load family, and I'm in doors, door opening.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I'll stick it in. And as long as we're talking about types, you know, we talked about the dimensions of things changing by type. If we select that door opening, there it is. We can go to edit type. And now we have in edit type the things that apply to, well, actually, let me copy another one. CS, I want to put one down here. So I have two. Select one, go to edit type. I want to make them 30 inches wide. So, well, I might have a choice. Oh, it already gives me a choice. But if I wanted to make one that was 48 inches wide, let's say, I could go to duplicate. Its new name will be 48 by 84. Its actual dimension now needs to be 4 feet by 7 feet. Okay, so that one got bigger. This one's still the smaller one. This is the 36. This is the 84 because it's a different type, and basically different type means for 3D objects means different dimensions. And so I now have those two heights. Those two types, and we can change if those are only 80-inch ones, we can change that to 80 inches high. Back to dimensions for a minute. Oh, temporary dimensions. And I think your question was about dimensioning here. Either way, whether it's a cut opening that goes all the way up to the ceiling, or an opening that's just a hole in the wall with you know, stuff going up on top of it, we can still go to annotate, dimension, and pick a line here, or pick a line here. It doesn't care. It just sees an edge that it works with. Dimensions can also be used to control things, control where they are. They're not just descriptive. The way AutoCAD is, these are actually like muscles, if you like. So if I pick this window and it's basically what we have when I do this, I get a blue temporary dimension that's here and will go away when I unclick the door. When I put up a regular dimension with the dimension tool, it stays. If I select either of the objects that it's dimensioning, it becomes variable. So I can say, I want to move this. I want to move this window. So I pick that window and I want to make that 3 feet. So it moves over 3 feet. Doesn't move the door. I didn't pick the door. It moves the window because the window is what I selected. We can put up strings of dimensions. And I know we looked at this briefly. Never hurts to do it again. Let's say from, we've changed my temporary dimensions to default to looking at wall faces and edges. We haven't changed the dimensions itself because that's just one of the options within each dimension, each permanent dimension that you put up. So I'm going to change this to wall faces. And I think and now it'll work. I can keep picking lines like that. And I have some control over the appearance of things. I don't like the way this says 0 foot 6 inches. I would rather just have 6 inches. It takes up less space and it's just less confusing. So if I pick this dimension and go to edit type, one of the dimensional options we have under units is to suppress 0 feet. And that will be for this dimension type. We're going to suppress saying 0 feet 6 inches. Okay. So that'll kick down to 6 inches instead of the 0 feet 6 inches. If we got there and realized, oh, I really want to do the rest of that wall, we could create a new dimension string, or we can take this one and say, these are called witness lines that go from the dimension line down to the object. We can say edit witness lines and just keep picking more of them until we have all we need, and then click somewhere out here where it's anywhere it's not picking up another object. You can click and that will terminate that. So the nice thing is those all move together. You can change them by type together, whatever you need to happen there. A couple of things here, just about dimensions. Let's take an easier one. This one, we have at each end, well, we can move this wherever we want. And when you dimension with AutoCAD, it dimensions to an actual point, and the end of the leader is associated with that. With Revit, we're actually measuring to this object, and one of the dimension variables for this type is how far somewhere in here, what you want, what that distance is supposed to be all the time. I forget where it is. If you want to change that, you can just grab this button and move it wherever you want. The end dot there, make it very close if you like. The dot in the middle affects what you will be. Instead of picking this line, if I want to pick this line, then I use this dot in the middle to go over and grab that. Go over, and now I'm dimensioning the room instead of the door. So maybe I put the dimension in here. It's very, very flexible that way. You could create a new dimension, or you can use one you've already got and reassociate it with different objects. It'd be a little confusing. Sometimes you have to zoom in to be able to drag this down. I could drag that down like that, which doesn't make much sense because that sort of implies there's something out here we're looking at. So we leave that in here. A couple of things we can do with text with a dimension. Let's just pick this one. Pretty much Revit is really not going to let you put up what we call a fake dimension. I can't just change that. I can't leave these two 11 foot 4 inches apart and make this say 11 foot 6. It just won't happen. Let's take a look at that. If we double click on the the text, sorry. So sometimes when you do that, this little guy, if you need to move something away, like if you want this 6 inches, it's getting a little confused with those tick marks. You want to move it out. You can drag it out like that, just using the dot. There should be a better word for that. The blue dot that happens underneath each piece of text. And you can choose whether or not that piece has a leader or not. And when you have a dimension string, this leader will apply to all the individual dimensions within that string. You move it back close, and that goes away. Okay, let's take this one piece of text. I'm going to put it back here in position. Let's say we didn't get a good measurement, but I would like that to say plus or minus 11 foot 4 inches. So I can come in here, double click on the text, and I can either replace that text entirely, like to say verify on site, apply. Okay. It says verify. You just replace. You got something that looks like a dimension, but it's not really doing dimension kind of stuff. I'll do Control Z just to make that go away. Double click. Or we can add text above it, below it, to the left, or to the right. So if I do above prefix, I'm going to say plus/minus, approx, C designer. You can put all that kind of stuff on there if you want to have that. It's probably a bad place to, hard to read, but we have all those options. What we can't do when we say replace text is say 11 foot 6. Looks too much like a foot mark. Close. How about 11.6? Looks too much. It's just not going to let us put anything in there unless I say I can put 11 feet 6 inches in there, but I can't do anything that looks like a real dimension as we know it. It's pretty good that way. AutoCAD will let you fake them, let you just replace any dimension text with anything you want. It can be really problematic. Keeps it honest. Okay, that sort of was a quick run through of number 20. Okay, now we want to talk about putting views onto sheets. Let's make a couple of views here. Well, they're already made, to tell you the truth, by virtue of having these. Revit starts with these views, which actually take us to those actual views. It's an elevation. I mean, that is the elevation. You click on it, and it takes you to the elevation, and what you see here controls what the elevation sees. Let's go to these guys, each of these in turn. Turn crop visibility on. A crop view, crop region visible. There we are. And I just want to drag these in so we're a little more controlled there. East, north, just clicking on it, drag it in. Drag it in. South. Turn these on. Getting the picture here. Typically, turning the crop views, making the crop views, making the crop region visible is something you sort of do initially, and then you can turn it off. I'm going to then shift select all those and we'll keep cropping the view, but turn the crop regions off for all 4 of them at one time. So when I go onto a sheet, now I'll bring my east one in, bring my north one in, and you'll notice that they'll line themselves up vertically like that, south. And what's happening over here, this is new with the 2023 version, when this turns blue over here, it means that this view has been placed on a sheet. And one thing Revit doesn't let you do is place the same view on 2 different sheets. It gets confusing. And people don't know where to look or which one to refer to. So if you have to have 2 similar views on the same sheet, let's say one with your furniture turned on and one with the furniture turned off, that's when you would go into duplicate view, call one furniture plan and one called carpenter plan or something or other, and then you could have them both on the sheet at the same time. So dragging these over is just a matter of, I'm going to get rid of this 1/8 inch one. Do that. It's going to help for me to have all these instead of 1/8 of an inch, which is the default. I want to change all these to 1/4 inch, so I can just grab them, change their scale all at one time. And probably have to rearrange them some. Something like that. As I was rescaling and moving things, this view and its title got sort of dissociated, so I can simply select the title and move it up to the place that I want. Now its end sticks all the way over here because that was a much bigger view when I started. So if I select the view, the end dot comes into play, and then I can move this back down to where that wants to be. And we can move these over. These also sort of snap into each other vertically and horizontally. So they're easy to align. Talking about title blocks, we have all these fields over here, useful information about the project, about the sheet, and where that information comes from. There are 3 different places. The project-wide information that will show up on every title block we put in here is up here in Manage. So let's keep an eye on what's here. Really nothing is filled out here except the sheet name that is automatically assigned to the first sheet you create in the architectural template. We go to Manage, Project Information, and it's really these ones down at the bottom that we're interested in. And let's just say we were sending this out today to 11/2023. Project status, ready for construction. Client name, owner, I'm going to, let's say Humana. Project address. When you get this button here, that means we're going to have, instead of just a 1-line thing, we're going to have like a tiny little multi-line word processor. So West Main Street, KY, whatever. Project name, that's what will show up here. New hospital. And then project number. Sometimes these go by years, so 2023-0001, something like that. Every firm's got a different way of doing that. So that information, the project specific information, will show up here. All these title blocks, as we create more of them, in this project will say Humana, new hospital, and have this project information here. There's also sheet information, like the number of the sheet, the scale of the sheet, and the name of the sheet. And that is, you just select it, since that's the thing itself. We don't have to go into edit type or anything. We're just going to, we can call the sheet name, call it plan and elevation shows up right away. And that's unique to this sheet, as is the sheet number. We can sort of ignore these guys, but typically it'll be somebody who actually did the drawing, the actual drafts person, and you usually put that person's initials in here. Some other poor soul, his job is to go through all the drawings in the whole set and make sure that every time I've called out a reference to detail 14 on sheet A300, that's actually there, and that's actually what it's aiming at. Revit takes care of a lot of that, but somebody needs to make sure it all works together. The designer might be somebody entirely different. The artist who does the sketches, and then approved by, this probably be somebody licensed, maybe the head of the firm who would sign off and say, yes, this can go out under my signature. So if we're going to make a new sheet for, let's say, sections, we can go to Sheets, right-click Sheets, New Sheet. We'll use that same one. And we'll see that this new empty sheet has automatically incremented up to 102, Humana, hospital, all this stuff, but it doesn't have a sheet name. So we can say over here, it's not unnamed. We're going to call it wall sections. And now 101 is our plans and elevations. Number 102 is our wall sections. The blue means, no, let's try dragging this over. Drag this over onto here. Just won't go. It's just not letting me. Let me drag my site plan over. Oh, here's why. I was picking the button. That's just a little symbol, meaning it's already in place. I need to drag the actual view itself. So there's my site plan view. And then that turns blue, and now I can't. I can't drag that. If I try, it says it's already there. It's already on the sheet. You can't do it. If you need two views, use duplicate. If I had a level 2, so in my site plan, I can pick the word, not the button. And there's my site plan. Anyway, so that's in a nutshell how you place views on sheets. We can have 3-dimensional 3D views. Whatever that one was. And we can change its scale. You can change the scale of a drawing of an image anywhere you want, either out on the sheet or back in the view. Let's see, select that view. That's the view, crop region visible. It sometimes gets a little chaotic out on the Control C. So now that that's there, I'll probably turn off its. I want to keep it cropped so I don't see all that stuff that was there before, but I don't want to actually see the border of it. Each of these views, we pick it has its own property. I might still want to think of it as 3D over here, but if I want it to have a different title on the sheet to override that right there, I can call this override that and have it called the 3D view there, even as it's just called this one over here. I try not to do that most of the time. I would probably let's I think a better way to do that would be Control Z. Would be simply to rename this view to Axo view, and then not override the name, but just keep it not change the name, but just keep that there. So we have on a sheet, we have project-wide information that comes from project information. We have sheet-specific information that comes here, like what's the name of the sheet, what's the number of the sheet. We can change that if we want to. And it changes. You can also just go in here and double click it right there and call it wall enlarged. You can change it there, or you can change it here, either one. And then we have view specific information for each of these views. We have the thing itself. We have its scale. And if we want to change the scale, we can just change that right there. You can double click there and make this be 1/4 inch if you want. Everything sort of moves around. You got to regroup it. It's really handier to have them the scale you want out in back out here before you move them in, but can always be changed. So the view scale, the view title, we saw that. And then basically each of these in a plot exactly the way that it appears here. So if we turn its borders on, crop region visible, those will print. If we go into the view and say we would like that to be a shaded view, it will plot with a shaded view. Obviously, black and white printer can't print in color, but it'll do the best that it can. These can be perspective views, any of the views that you want. Our plotter right now is just it takes 24 inch rolls of paper. So we need to, and this plot sheet is a let's just dimension it. DI for dimension. Okay, so that's 2 feet 6. We can only do 2 feet, and it's 3 foot 6 that way. So we really want to change this whole thing from 2 feet 6, from 2.5 by 3.5 to 2 by 3 feet. So this is just a family, and we can edit this family and make it the size that we want. So let's take this guy. And here we're going to have to edit family. We can't just edit type because there are no parameters. We're not able to scale this here. That it wasn't put together that way. Could edit family, and here is that title block just as a bunch of lines. Basically, I want this whole group top half to come down 6 inches, and this edge to come over 6 inches. So the first thing, for sort of student work, we don't have any consultants. Let's just get rid of that. I'm going to leave all the Autodesk stuff there, but I'm just going to pick these and MV for move, then come down straight 6 inches. There's that. Grab those, MV for move, 6 inches. Oops, Control Z, 6 inches. And I like to leave a little extra room here for what we call a binding width. Well, that's enough. I would suggest, just to get the most you can out of your sheets, to have like a 1/4 inch margin, 1/4 inch margins all around here, and like 1.5 inch margin here, and that'll leave room for stapling and binding stuff. But we'll leave it like this. Now we've changed this enough that I would like to save this as a new Revit family as a 24 by 36 inch title block instead of a 30 by 40. So go to File, Save As, Family. I've already got a couple from previous classes, but we're going to call this Crash Course 24 by 36. Horizontal. And I'm putting the horizontal in because people have found that it's really pretty interesting doing a tall vertical one as well. So just make clear what this is. So that's a new Revit family. And now just like any other family that we've edited, furniture, whatever, I can load into project and close. Right, and we're back in model space here. I can't place a title block out here. But if we go back to our one of our sheets, get rid of that, get rid of that. Like any family, if you select it, you will get, oh, I should have changed the type name, but you will get the all the other items of that same family that you can switch it around. So any window can be switched for any other window, any piece of furniture for any other, and any title block for any other one. So this is really the crash course 20 by 40, 36 horizontal. So switch that out. So we can plot this one now. Just have to move our views around so they fit. Whatever that wants to be. So that changed that one. On this other sheet, I'd have to do the same thing. This is a family that only contains one type. I should have renamed the type when I duplicated the family. It's a little confusing. I apologize. So that's I know that's a quick, a quick way through. I'll wait till you're all here till we actually do some plotting. Let's go back to our first floor plan and close everything else. This is a really useful tool when you've got a lot of those strung out across there. Pick the view you want to keep on the screen and then hit the little red X and all the others go away or turn off. Put a fireplace or something, diagonal fireplace in this corner. It's unique to this building. It's not going to be repeated anywhere else. So for that, I can use component. Components are three-dimensional things, pretty much always. Model in place. And I guess, I don't have a category in here for chimneys, but I think a wall is the closest thing that a fireplace is to. It's made out of the same kind of stuff, brick or whatever. And we'll call this fire or chimney. Got to turn caps lock off. And we have 5 or 6 different kinds of solids that we can make. We can create extrusions where we draw a plan. You can see the little movie happening here on the floor. We draw what's called a boundary and extrude it up from that. We've got a blend where you have one shape that transitions to another. We've got a revolve where you draw a shape and then it swings, pivots around like making a wine glass or something or other. So you draw one shape and then spin it around that central axis to make a solid. Sweep, where you pick a shape and extend it along a 2 or 3 dimensional line. A swept blend, which does that, but starts at one shape and ends up another. And it could be going from a circle to a star along that route. Or void forms, which are the same basic shapes, but they're thought of as a negative, so they subtract from some other one. So let's look at this really slowly first. So I'm going to make an extrusion. Basically, I'm going to put a rectangular chimney here and then cut a fireplace opening into it. We'll just use a simple rectangle. And we get to say how high it is, and we'll just say it's 8 feet high from the floor. Okay. So what we're going to see there is let's turn off the we're going to see there is just this brick thing. And when things are modeled in place, which means right happening in the model, we can use grips to let me turn that off a little bit. We can reshape them right in place. So if we need to scoot it up to something or other else, we can do that instead of having to make it somewhere else and hope it's the right size. So that's just that thing extruded up. To make a void form, to sort of cut the hole for the fireplace, I'll go to, well, I'll pick it again. I'm going to be editing that. Since I made it here, I'm going to edit it here. I'm going to create a void form of an extrusion. I'm just going to draw a rectangle like this on the floor and make it 3 feet high. Okay. And then I'll use the cut tool to say, cut that hole. Oh, did it already. Okay. So there we have a fireplace created in this room. That's a modeled in place object, and it's one that we can fiddle with right here. Oops, right here in the space till we get the way we want it. That's different from the components that we're going to be loading off of disk or getting from bimobject.com or somewhere, or that come with Revit, like the wall cabinets and stuff, which are not unique to this drawing, but which are ones that we'll be using multiple times in a project and from project to project. And we'll be saving them out to disk as a separate family. So what's involved there is we go to File, New, and not New Project, but a new family. A set of custom components to use in projects plural. This will be like this will become a resource for you to use in anything else that you do from here on out. And we need to tell it what kind of a thing it is. Oh, shoot, template file, family templates. Why is this so messed up? I need to delete a bunch of these, but I need to get to the English Imperial thing and tell it that we're going to make a piece of furniture, make a table. I like making tables. And what we have here, we're in the Revit family editor, which is a different environment from out here. We're not here, we're in this own little mini editing environment, and we're in a plan view looking straight down at what hopefully will be the midpoint of whatever object we create. And I'm going to start out by making a couple of extrusions for legs. I'm in plan view now, so I'm just going to use a let's say 2 by 2 inch legs. And I want this to be, let's say, 30 inches high. So that will be coming up at us. It says depth, it really should say height, but it's depth, okay? So we can look at the 3D view here of this one and see what we have so far. Go back to my reference level. Since I want this to be the middle, I'm going to just mirror this leg about this line right here. So pick it. This green one is where you get to pick just pick the line that you want to copy it around. I'll pick these two and mirror them about that line. And then I'll make another extrusion, another rectangle. I'll start from here to here. and I want a little overhang, so I'll go to offset, let's say 2 inches. And I don't want to end up with two purple lines here. I want to end up with just the one of them that's offset 2 inches from there. So I can do it to either side. I pick the side I want. Okay. Then I drew that on the floor. So let's look at that in a front view. So there's a leg, there's the table. I'm just going to drag the top of the table up and drag the bottom of the table up. And there's that. So we go into its 3D view. Pretty nice, huh? Okay. So right now there's no we don't have any materials associated with it. We don't have any dimensions associated with it. It's just going to be a little table. And we'll get a file, save as family, and I'm going to stick it in. I have a folder called Revit Families on my main computer, and that's divided into subfolders for furniture and ladders and light fixtures and all sorts of stuff. We'll call this crash course table. Save. So that's now on disk. I could email it to you. You would have the same one. It's not like just built into my model. It's an independent file on disk. And now I can say 2 things. One, I can say load it into the project, which would sort of leave it still open here and editable, but I don't want to do that. I'm just going to load it into the project and close out of this family editor. So here it is, just like any other component that you make or get from Knoll. These are all instances of this. Yeah. So the category is furniture. The family is crash course table that all 3 are a member of, and each one of these is an individual instance. And there's really nothing we can do about right now. There's nothing I can do with the instance except maybe make it 3 feet off the floor, and then it goes up in the air. But that's about all. Control Z. We don't need to do that. That's the basic deal to making 3D objects, component families of 3D things. Using the modeling tools, to some extent, we're going to abstract elements. I mean, I didn't put on the skirt, which you'd really need. That's the narrow board that goes along underneath here that holds the legs to the top and stuff like that. It's hard to do compound surfaces like a saddle that curve up in one direction and down in another. Revit's not the best tool for that. We can make those in any other application that's good at that, and then import them in here as a standalone object, as a family. But for the time being, we'll be dealing with, for the rest of this course, with things that we can make out of those basic elements. So chimney mass. Okay, let's do something a little different on this. Let's make a different kind of table, just to show you some more of the options we have for making them. This was pretty boring. Let's do something more interesting. File, new, family, and again, it'll be furniture. And what I would like to do here is an elliptical tabletop with legs that are round at the bottom and square at the top and slant in a little bit. Let's make them first. What each of those will be is a blend that's going to start out round and end up square. So here's how those work. Blend. You start by drawing the shape at the bottom. Let's see. So a circle, a blend. So if we start with a a 1/2 inch radius. That's a 1 inch diameter. That's good. And then if I put its square top, edit top, I go to edit top, right above it, it will go straight up. If I put the top over here, oops, Control Z, sorry. If I put the top over here, it will slant in. How can I see this best? It will slope in. So it has a flat bottom and a flat top, but it slopes in as it goes. So let's go back to reference level. See how this works. I didn't practice this. Mirror it again. Okay, and we have 2 aiming together. Mirror these around. See what that looks like. Okay, so you get an idea what that might start to look like. Very elegant. And then create. Oh, how high are those? A foot high. Oh, it'll be a coffee table. Okay. So now we'll do a create extrusion, just a straight. Where's my ellipse? Ellipse center there. The end is out there and the top is out here. And that's going to be 2 inches thick. Okay. Go back to my front view. Do the same thing. I sort of lost track of how thick that is, but we'll leave it like that. So 3D. So here's a table. And once you start to get a sense of how the tools work, these extrusions and the blends are really easy to do. The swept ones that follow an edge or follow a 3D profile are you just have to watch the YouTube videos and that's pretty clear. But this one, I don't actually have to save it explicitly. If I go to load into project and close, Revit will realize, oh, haven't saved it yet. Do you want to save it? It'll say yes. And we're going to call this crash course ellipse table. And then we come back and put our elliptical table into the kitchen. And there they are. So it's not a difficult process. And I really encourage you to explore that and watch the videos about it, because this is sort of where we get to be designers of things instead of just people who specify stuff out of catalogs, which, is an entirely, it's a huge part of the profession, but it's nice not to feel limited by all that. And what I went over in class this past, I forget what day it was, maybe it was just this Thursday, I can't remember which, how we can then assign materials to these and have them change, but that's already in another video. Create a coffee table, ranges. Oh, actually a couple of things. There might be some things on this that we want to show the detail, but not to have to model it in 3D. Let's say we wanted to have a indicate that there was a band of edging material here, and then something going on, some different material or something inlaid on the top of that. Let's go back and edit family. And I want to get into my top view, reference level. Well, actually, I want to go into a 3D view. Shift. So I just want to draw something inset like 2 inches from that edge on the tabletop. So the first thing I need to do is to, by default, Revit's going to thinks it's going to be drawing on the floor. So the first thing I want to do is to take my work plane, which is like where I'm drawing stuff. Say set, pick a plane. I want to be drawing on that plane now. I want to be drawing on that top plane. So if I go to create model line, and let's just make a circle. It's on the top. It's not down on the floor, which would it would have been otherwise. So I think I just want to create another ellipse. Let's see if I can go back into my plan view and pick there and there and there. They don't truly offset ellipses. They're different, but we'll just do it. Okay, there's that. I'll get rid of it. I'll just move this thing to here. Move from its center to there. Go back to the 3D view. Oh, this isn't. This isn't there. The ellipse is on the floor because I'd forgotten that setting a work plane only affects the view it was set in, not all views. Sorry about that. Let's see. I've got a center point now. Create model line ellipse. SC for snap center. There we go. I'm sure there's a better way to do this, but okay, well, that looks good. Not perfect, but okay for now. Yeah, looks good. Okay, so now that I've modified this, I can say load into project and close. It will say, do I want to save the one on disk, the elliptical table that we saved to the hard drive? I'll say, yep, sure do. I like this one better. And I do want to replace the one that's there already. Yep. And I want the new version with the lines to take the plate to overwrite this one old without the lines. So then they both update because they're both members of the same family. So you can start with something quite chunky just to get a sense of its massing. Maybe you don't even know what the material is going to be, or if you want it squared off or rounded. Big lumpy armchair model does a bunch of sort of cubic shapes and then refine it as the course of your design or the course of the project goes on. I do want to show you revolves. I'm going to make a like a planter pot. New family. And for things like this that are usually it's just called entourage. It's like the books on the shelf and the candlesticks and stuff like that are not, they're not going to be part of any contract that a contractor is going to be dealing with. The stuff moved in and hung on the wall and that kind of stuff. So we'll just call it entourage. And that's like people and cats and that kind of stuff. Open. So here I'm looking in a plan view. What I want to do is get into an elevation view. So I'll just go into my front elevation view, where now we see the floor plane across here and the vertical axis going that way. I'm just going to draw a shape like half a planter pot, and like that thing we saw, and then spin that profile around. So this is going to be a revolve, and we can just use this one when I'm pick a plane. That one. So what I do is draw half of a planter around I don't even know how big this is. Oh, that's about the right size. I'm just going to draw half of it. Maybe the bottom's a little thicker. Maybe it curves. Maybe it's got a little bit of curve to it. Delete. Offset this by an inch. Oops, I didn't have copy turned on. Use the trim command. What I'm after here is one continuous perimeter. Okay, so that's my boundary line. I've done that. Now I'm going to draw my axis line, which is up here, and then say do it. And it makes this 3D hot. Is that cool?
Yes.
Was that easy, or was that easy? It needs a hole in the bottom. Let's go back. Let's go back to my front view. Select it. Edit revolve, and I'm going to keep this center line here, but I'm just going to move that guy over some amount, so we'll be left with a hole that big, and just go back and recreate it, and go back to the 3D view, and there it is with the hole in the middle. So I love doing this stuff. This is the most fun I have in my oh, and also my niece makes dollhouse miniatures at one scale of 1 to 12, which is I think Barbie scale, essentially like that, and they're incredibly detailed. And so she sends me pictures of stuff that she sees somewhere, like an urn in a Marrakesh market or something, and then I model it in 3D and print it on my 3D printer. Here's a chair I made for her, and then send it up to her, and she paints it gold or whatever. Just doing this kind of stuff. So it's really fun.
It
Anyway,
reminds me of working with 3ds Max.
Yes, it's from the same company. It's a lot of the same tools. It's
yes,
and a lot of, when you go into AutoCAD, a lot of they use the same terminology, and I'm sure some of the same algorithms to create it.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, so there's that. Oh, and also things that you build with 3D Max. If you have them in that format, I know there's a way to get them into Revit without having to remake them and stuff.
Okay.
There's a lot of that back and forth passing. So I'm going to load into project and close. Do you want to save changes? Yes. We'll call it Crash Course Pot. Course Planter. Something like that. And there it is. And now if we know that this table is, I think I could just like elevate that by, let's say 2'1", and put it over on top of the table. Well, maybe 3'1". Forget how tall that was. Well, it's a little high. We'll look at through here. Oh, we can go into a elevation view and then just pick it and use the down arrow keys to move it into place. So fun. Anyway, so that I'm going to have to think of a good assignment for you guys that will somehow involve. I mean, everybody else had an assignment of making things. So start. I'll give you little heads ups, and I won't. And I'll give you at least like a week to work on it by the time I finalize it. But start looking at things in your house that you can make with extrusions, that you can make with subtractions, that you can make with revolves, And then these guys were, these were blends going from round to square. If you start looking at the geometry of things like that, a lot of it becomes possible. I tell you what's hard is like molded plastic chairs that curve one way to receive your back and another way for your butt and that kind of stuff. Those are hard. Don't even bother. Get them online. But think about simpler things made out of less complex forms. Anyway, that was fun. I enjoyed that. We certainly covered a lot of territory in 2 hours. Well, it's been fun. Come again.
Yes.
Catch you
Yep.
later. Bye.
See you. Bye.